Hi, welcome everyone. Good evening. We're going to get started in just a few. We're going to give folks some time to arrive. Thanks so much for being here on time. We're excited to talk with you tonight.
Hi, everyone.
Hello.
Hi, good afternoon, Ben. Thanks for joining.
All right.
We're going to give folks some time to log on here. We're expecting quite a few more people, so appreciate everybody's patience. We're going to get started in a little bit. All right, well, welcome everyone. I think we have a critical mass here, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Folks ready to rock and roll here? Looks like it. Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. Thanks so much for making time to be with us today. We are excited to talk with you about this new innovative approach to budgeting known as participatory budgeting. And this is the first of many info sessions that we will lead as the Office of Equity. My name is Jamila Jordan, and I am the County's Equity Director. I'm joined by several of my colleagues and teammates here, including Sophie Martinez and Manny Benitez, as well as Angela Nicholson. This will have a team of individuals behind the scenes here working to make sure that everything runs smoothly here tonight. So I want to thank the IST team as well. So with that, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. And it would be great if you would go ahead and pop your name in the chat for us and maybe the organization you're representing, if that's applicable. So go ahead and pop your name in the chat for us, and that way it functions as something of a roll call sign-in sheet for us. So feel free to do that when you have a moment. Your name and organization or your neighborhood, for example. That would be great to know. In terms of our flow for tonight, everyone, actually, I want to start by letting you know that we do have closed captioning available. So if you want to use that feature, you would go to the toolbar at the bottom there, and you'll see an option for you to put on the transcript, as view full transcript or show subtitle settings. And so that way you can toggle your closed captioning on or off depending on what you prefer. So that's something that's available to you. We also are recording tonight, and the purpose of that is so that individuals who could not come will be able to look at the recording at their leisure and learn and hear about what we talked about tonight. So in terms of our flow tonight, everyone, we're going to move into an introduction of what participatory budgeting is all about. And we also call it PB for short. It's a long name. So PB is how we'll reference it at times here tonight. And then we want to talk to you about our process in Marin County. What is the PB Marin County approach to this really exciting work? I also want to share some of our approaches related to outreach and engagement, and also hear your feedback. And then really tonight's about you. We imagine that you'll have questions and comments, ideas, and so we've left plenty of time in our agenda here to hear from everyone. So just know that we'll have plenty of time for discussion. And then we'll move into any announcements that you all want to share, and then we'll wrap it up. So that's our flow for tonight. And with that, I want to just briefly share just a couple of what we call brave space agreements, and they're really just participation agreements. We ask that one person speaks at a time. It's a small group here tonight, so that should be very easy to do. You can always use the chat to share comments in your own words. If you have something specific that you want to share and write down, that's one way for you to do it. We do ask that you take space and you make space, meaning you share your thoughts and ideas, but you also leave room for your neighbors and colleagues here to share their thoughts as well. If possible, please go ahead and share your video. It would be great to see you. And I see Stephanie just came online right on cue there. Stephanie, thank you. It's great to see you. We understand if you don't want to. It's been a long day for some of us, I imagine. And hello, Rosa, good to see you. Thanks for coming on video there. So we'd love to visually connect with you that way. And then we have to just be respectful of one another's opinions. We all have different perspectives, and so let's keep that in mind. And when possible, let's use I statements. So just a little bit of background about, and hello there, Kristen, thanks for coming online there, good to see you. So a little bit about the Office of Equity. So our mission as a team is really to establish the county as an anti-racist, multicultural workforce. We're committed to accountability, to transformational change, and community engagement. And it's really important that we acknowledge at the top of our conversation tonight that we in the office really lead with the racial equity lens. And you might have seen and heard of other offices of equity or departments focusing on an isolated approach to this work, whereas you just look at gender, you just look at age or disability or income. But for us, it's about an intersectional approach. It's looking at it holistically. And we lead with the racial equity lens because we know that race really is one of the most important factors in terms of where your life outcomes in terms of where you'll live, how long you'll live, how much wealth you'll accrue over your lifetime, and many, many other indicators. So we lead with race, but that's not to the exclusion of other identities like gender, like disability. But we know that when we lead with race, we have an even greater impact on some of these other marginalized groups. So I wanted to spend a moment here. Some of you may be familiar with the Race Counts report. It was released not long ago, and it basically compiles data on racial disparities in the state. And Marin currently ranks as #2 in terms of being the second most racially disparate county in the state. And this is a modest improvement, a very, very modest one from when we ranked as #1 a few years ago. And so there's still a lot of work to be done. And we also know that the pandemic really exacerbated a lot of the racial disparities in the state and across the country. And it made some communities even more vulnerable to the challenges they were facing before. And so with that in mind, the Board of Supervisors has identified racial equity as one of the key priorities for how to spend the American Rescue Plan Act, which are federal dollars that the county received. There are lots of other ways that they're using the money, but we are very fortunate that they have allocated some of that to racial equity. And so we're using part of those dollars for two main initiatives. And the one we're going to talk about here tonight is participatory budgeting, PB. So we have about $2.5 million from the American Rescue Plan Act, also known as ARPA, to spend on selected projects. And so tonight we're going to talk a little bit about our approach to PB and how you all can get involved. But before I do that, I'd love to just maybe see a show of hands, and this is when it's great to see folks on video. Has anyone participated in the PB process in the past? You can raise your physical hand or your virtual hand. Anyone? PB, I see Nicole has, okay. A couple other head nods. All right. And would you all say that you have kind of a basic understanding of what PB is all about? Would you say? Let me see a show of hands. Yes or no? Yes, I do, or no, I don't. Okay, a couple of hands. Some folks saying no, not yet. All right. Okay, great. Everyone's welcome here. So let's go ahead and share a little bit about what it's all about. What is PB? And it's something that is taking place across the country and really across the globe. And it's a democratic process by which community members can decide how to spend part of a public budget. And it really gives people real power over real money. So that's basically, in a nutshell, what PB is all about. It's about community members deciding how to spend public dollars. As I mentioned, it's taking place across the globe. You can see in the early 1990s, it was really popular in some international countries. Brazil, Porto Alegre was actually the first place that we know of that launched the PB process. And then we saw more places joining in the 2000s, and then 2010, a lot more American states decided to give it a try, American cities and states. And now, everyone, it is all the rage. And across our country, in New York, in Chicago, Greensboro, Vallejo, our neighbor, not too far away from here, Oakland, Grand Rapids, many, many other places are doing this work. A lot of community colleges are using this as well to decide how to use their limited spending dollars. So this is something that we've been inspired by, these other examples, but we also wanted to make it really specific to the Marin County context. And so what I want to do now is just share a brief video with you, and it really just walks you through what PB is all about and some examples from other places. Alex, take it away.
Participatory budgeting is basically where constituents get to weigh in on how we spend their tax dollars.
Taking a piece of the city budget and saying to your constituents, you guys get to decide how to spend this part of the money. In many ways, it's like the most direct form of participatory democracy.
Participatory budgeting allows the folks in a community to be more involved in deciding how a city spends part of their budget by actually coming up with ideas for projects that they think will benefit their community, working together to build those ideas into proposals, and then having a big community-wide process where everyone votes on what ideas get implemented. I first heard about participatory budgeting from community activists, and then 4 years later, here we are implementing it in Durham.
We brought participatory budgeting to New York City 8 years ago now, and the last couple of years in New York City, over 100,000 people have voted in PB.
It's been 4 years and we've now gone through the process 3 times, and I think that the experiences that we have with participatory budgeting in St. Louis show that it can really work anywhere. I've used the data that we've gotten from participatory budgeting to guide other funding. So for me, it's a great educational tool to make sure that I really am in touch with the needs of our community.
Not to be crass about it, but it is really good, if you want to do something that your constituents not just like, but also builds their sense that I'm glad I voted for that person because I feel more able to affect change together with my neighbors. That's not an easy thing to do, and PB really delivers that.
Some of the biggest challenges with participatory budgeting is staff capacity and time. The other challenge is money. And so having to overcome some of those barriers in order to just inform people of the process is something that we're still trying to work our way through.
Look, it is a lot of work. I don't want to pretend like it's not. If you already filled up your docket, that is hard. You have to plan to be able to make it a percentage of your staff time and your budget and your own personal time.
So I would say it is a lot of work, but it's not a lot of work for me because we've hired an incredible staff to do our implementation.
The thing about it is, the point of participatory budgeting is really to delegate. It really should not be an elected official-led process. It should be an elected official supported process.
Cities are a place where we can build a more equitable and inclusive and responsive democracy, where everyone really has a voice at the table and is able to make their voice heard and advocate for their needs and their community's needs. Participatory budgeting is a great way to put those ideals into action.
It has really increased engagement in our community. And a lot of folks have said, well, we see that our tax money is actually working for us at a local level. It gives us more faith in the system. And so now we come out and we feel a part of the decisions that are being made that impact us every day.
What we've seen in Durham is people getting more and more involved in local politics. And so giving people an exciting and really meaningful way to be involved in their community through participatory budgeting feels even more important right now, because I think people really need a way to continue to be engaged civically in ways that feel hopeful and empowering to them. And our hope is that if people come out and vote in PB, that is the first step on a long road to lifetime political engagement.
All right, great. So hopefully that gave you all a high-level overview of what PB is all about. And we're going to go into more detail now into how we in Marin are planning to implement a PB process. So first, why PB? Why are we doing this? And as I mentioned, this is really a fantastic way to empower community members to collectively decide how to spend public dollars. And what we've seen in other places is that it really is a way to deepen grassroots democracy. It expands civic engagement too. As you saw in the video, people become more inspired, more willing to participate when they feel they have more direct influence over resources. This is also a way for us to advance racial equity in Marin, which is one of the priorities of our boards of supervisors. And we've seen it helps to build stronger communities in a more transparent way in terms of how budgets are decided. So there are lots of really positive benefits to PB processes. And this is something that we plan to continue to do in the county for many years to come. So I mentioned we have about $2.5 million in resources for this. And one of the things that we want to do is build on the Race Equity Action Plan. And I don't know if you all have seen that document. If not, I'm going to ask my colleagues to pop it in the chat for everyone. And you can take a look at it at your leisure. But this is a document that was put together by community members. And they identified 3 primary areas of focus: mental health, economic opportunity, and housing. And so we wanted to have some synergy with that process for PB. And so we are inviting people to submit proposals on those 3 topic areas. Now, you may have other topics that you want to include a proposal for, such as education or parks and recreation, for example, and you can do that. Our goal is really to advance racial equity in this work and to have some very specific outcomes for communities. And we're also using the Healthy Places Index. And if you aren't familiar, this is a tool that includes various data sets from across the state. And it allows us to hone in on communities that are higher needs, that have various disparities in terms of race, health, and wealth. So we're using this tool to help focus the PB process. So this is a really traditional PB graphic that you may have seen in other places. And so we're going to adapt this for our purposes, but we've already designed the process. And now I want to walk you through these other 4 steps in the work. But before I do that, I wanted to just share at a high level what our process is here. And so the first stage that you see on the very far left is for us to recruit a funding and outreach committee. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in just a moment. But that's our first step. We hope some of you on the call would be interested in joining that after you learn more about it. And then we'll also be collecting ideas from community members at this point to get a sense of what do they want to see? What are the needs? What are the challenges related to those areas I mentioned: housing, economic opportunity, and mental health. And so we'll collect those ideas, and we want to have that inspire our community-based organizations to submit proposals. And so they can submit, and we also are providing grant writing assistance as well. We know that some of these CBO partners have very lean staff and maybe don't have the bandwidth to apply for a process like this. And so we want to support, we want to be a bridge and make it really easy for folks to join in. And so we're providing grant writing assistance. So keep that in mind for any of our CBO partners out there who want to apply. Just know that that's an option for you. And from there, everyone, we're going to move into that committee that I mentioned. They'll evaluate the proposals based on some key criteria. And we'll cover the criteria in a moment. And then after that is when the really exciting work happens, I think, and that's the community voting. And they decide which of the projects are most resonant to them, most relevant, and most important for their community. And based on the results, we will fund the winning proposals. So that's the process in a nutshell, everyone. And I'm going to walk you through a few more details. I do want to just mention that outreach is really central to a PB process. And you can see that bottom orange line there, that arrow. This will be a through line throughout our process. We want to just be making sure that we target community in the process. So let's talk a little bit more about this committee here, the Funding and Outreach Committee. So we're looking for about 9 to 15 residents, and we want representation from each supervisorial district. And we're looking for a real range of community members to participate. Youth and young adults, looking at seniors, ages 60 and older, individuals who are undocumented or underdocumented, women, our LGBTQ plus community as well, residents facing chronic illness or disabilities, and then BIPOC communities, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. So we're looking at a range of voices and perspectives who want to be involved in this committee. And I do just want to mention to you, you see on the bottom there in red, that people who are on this committee, they cannot be members or affiliated with an organization who's pursuing a grant, who's pursuing a PB grant. So I just wanted to make that known in case that changes your mind or opinion about the committee. That's something that's really important, just because you'll be evaluating the proposals. So it's not fair that you would be applying for one as well. So just keep that in mind. And then what would this group be doing, you might be wondering. And so we're really looking to this team to help us with inclusive community outreach, specifically within marginalized communities. And this group will also be reviewing and evaluating the proposals. And they'll be helping us to co-design the outreach events. And you see a shot there of a community in Cambridge, Massachusetts there. And this is a team of committee members who are out engaging the community and getting people to participate. And some expectations for this group, it's really about mobilizing participation. And so we want this group to meet about 8 times or so throughout the course of the process. And most of the meetings will be virtual. We do want you to come if you decide to join the committee so that you participate and have a full understanding of the requirements of your time commitment. We want to value your efforts and contributions, so we provide a $50 stipend per meeting, just as a way to show our appreciation. So the timeline, this is all on our website as well, but we have the application open till about May 12th. So really would love for you all to apply, sign up, tell a friend, tell a neighbor, anyone who you think would be interested in the role that I just mentioned, which is outreach and then reviewing the proposals, which will be pretty fun to see what community members come up with. And we'll make the selection in June and then launch the process in the summertime. So let's pause, and I'm going to talk for a moment about the PB grant process. And for our partners here on the line, you may be wondering, well, how do I apply for this? How do I get involved? How do I tap in? And so I'm going to cover a little bit of that now. And so that gets us to this develop proposals stage that you see on the graphic here. That's the third item there. And the big question, the $1 million, the $2.5 million question, I should say, is what would you do to advance racial equity if you had $2.5 million to spend in Marin County? And so the first part of this is for the community to brainstorm ideas. What comes to mind for you? What are some of the local needs or challenges that you think are really important for us to use these dollars for? So we're asking community members to think through, share ideas. We're going to have a virtual platform. We'll also be out in the community as well to get that in-person connection as well with people. But we're looking for them to start to think about ideas. What do they think is really important for advancing racial equity in Marin County? Our CVO partners can also host sessions where they brainstorm with their constituents. What are the issues that are most important? And so to apply, you would just develop a proposal. Our goal is to make the proposal really streamlined and not overly burdensome to complete. And so we're providing grants of between $50,000 to about $250,000. And the key requirement is that you have standing as a 501c3. And let's say you're a group of community members, a group of residents, you're not a 501c3, that you would just have to find a partner, one of your local organizations to partner with who do have that status. And you would work with them to submit the proposal. And we're hoping that the proposals are related to mental health, housing, and economic opportunity. But as I mentioned, there may be other topics that you want to cover. We wanted to focus on those communities that are below 70 on the Healthy Places Index. I mentioned to you that we do have grant writing assistance as well, so we encourage you to take advantage of that if that's something that you'd like to do. And then just complete it by the deadline, and I'll share a few dates with you in a moment. Some examples, and these are just examples, mind you, of potential projects include maybe renovating public buildings, renovating a community center, for example, fire safety education, might be improvements to public playgrounds and parks. Job placement and training is another one. Expanding services for marginalized communities. And we also encourage partnerships with other cities and nonprofits as well. So those are just a few ideas, but I imagine you all have many, many other ideas as well. So in terms of how these proposals will be evaluated, we're looking at 3 key components. One is feasibility. Is this possible to do? We're looking at need. Is there a need for this work? And then what's the impact? What are the outcomes that we're going to see as a result of this project? And so we're also looking at really creative post-pandemic solutions to racial inequity as well. Another component of the evaluation is that this not be an ongoing project, but instead that it's something new. We really want to leverage these funds to think outside of the box, to do things differently, to get some different results. And so that's one criteria. Another is that we'll provide up to 2 years of funding. And so we want to make sure that our applicants, our grantees, have an idea of after those 2 years that you know where other funding is going to come from for you to keep this project alive. I mentioned that we really do encourage people to partner, to link up with other nonprofits. It might be 2 or 3 nonprofits putting one proposal together, for example. So that way, it really just is about collective impact. And we want this to be smart. And so by that, I mean specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-bound. So those are the SMART goals. And so that's something to keep in mind is what are you trying to achieve with this project? What are the outcomes? And then the last one I want to mention to you is that organizations that they can't receive funding for the same project under other funding mechanisms. So if you're already funded by the county for that particular project, you wouldn't be able to apply in this case. So those are some things to think about. And now that takes us to the next step in our PB process here, everyone. And that is casting a vote, which is one of the really exciting pieces of it. And who can vote, you might be wondering. And really, we want to make this open to everyone in Marin County. So it's people who live, work, own a business, or attend school in the county. And they have to be just at least 14 years of age or older. And this is an example from New York. And you see, they're out in community and really getting in touch with people, answering questions, getting a sense of if these projects are going to meet the needs of neighborhoods that are really struggling with various issues. And so we want to take our cues from that approach as well and meet people where they are. So we'll have both an in-person outreach approach where we're out flyering at community centers in multiple languages. We have a multilingual staff and team. We'll be at libraries, community hubs, other popular community locations. We also are planning to do project expos, which you saw in that New York example a moment ago, where it's something like a science fair, where all of our grantees come, potential grantees come, and share what their project's all about. And community members are able to ask questions and share their thoughts and ideas. We also want to engage what we call a grassroots outreach team. And this will include youth and interns and other volunteers. And the goal of this is to target communities who may not traditionally participate in a process like this. So we want to be sure that we're out in areas where that are challenged by different issues, such as childcare, being able to come to a meeting or a workshop in person, for example, that have to work multiple jobs and don't have the wherewithal to take some time off, but instead we come to them is the point of this. We also are planning to have CBO ambassadors where we identify at least 5 or so community-based organizations to help us reach our target population. And in addition to that, everyone, we have online engagement. So this info session is one example of that. We'll do lots more of these. You probably have seen our e-blast. If not, I encourage you to sign up. It's another way we communicate with people. We're posting on our County of Marin website, as well as our Office of Equity website. Social media is another key tool, and we'll have some news releases as well. And in terms of our target populations, it includes youth, seniors, limited English proficient communities. So we want this to be a multilingual process, everyone. We're focusing on low-income communities as well as the BIPOC communities in Marin, which includes Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And I mentioned that Healthy Places Index to all of you, and some of the key communities within that who fall below 70 are Marin City, Novato, Canal, San Rafael, Strawberry, and West Marin, just to name a few. And so what happens after that, you may be wondering? Well, this is also an exciting piece where we fund the winning project And so we'll move into contracting with the winners in early 2023. And they would just have to be entered into our payment technology program. And then we'll disperse the funds over 1 to 2 years, depending on what their proposal is. And they would provide regular progress reports to us and let us know how the implementation is going and what other supports they need to make the project happen. So just to wrap up here, in terms of the timeline for this, we are going to continue to hold information sessions. We want to make sure that people know about this process and how to get involved. We'll be actually launching the grant application in July of this year. We'll have that open for about 2 months or so, and hope to get a ton of really great proposals from the community. We'll be conducting outreach throughout the entire life of this process. It's a really important piece of the work here. And then moving into selection of the winning proposals around November or December of this year. We have multilingual flyers available, and so we encourage you all to help spread the word. We want everyone involved in this. Everyone has a role to play in a PD process. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and pause my share here and just open it up. We are excited to hear any comments, questions, feedback from you all. So based on what we shared there, any comments or ideas, questions that you all have? And I see some comments in the chat about, is this going to be recorded? Yes, it is recorded, and it'll be posted on our website. I know that was quite a lot of information, so we want to make sure that it's available to others.
I have a question.
Yes, Vin, go for it.
Yeah, but when you talk about the outreach committee, you will engage with the community, will be most focused in the BIPOC and the marginalized population. Do you intend to recruit those people with the language, the availability to the community they represent, such as Spanish, Vietnamese, and other indigenous people language, that those outreach folk would have the capable to access to those community, talk to people, because since you eliminate some of the community, the CBO folk involved with that kind of activity. So I think for you see to consider to have the outreach committee with the language capacity, so he or she could go into the community rather than they have to using someone from the CBO to do the job for them. That's my question.
Yes, thank you so much for the question, and you bring up a really important issue. And so we're committed to a multilingual process, and definitely Spanish at a minimum, and Vietnamese as well. We've already translated our materials in those 2 languages, and so we want to have people on the outreach committee who can converse with the Spanish and Vietnamese speaking communities, as well as other languages. So that's a really important part of what we're looking for in the recruitment, is multilingual capacity and an understanding of the lived experiences of those communities. So thanks for lifting that up, and that's certainly a big consideration for us.
So I've got a question as a representative from a nonprofit in the county. Going through the presentation, I saw several different opportunities for us, but I'm really wondering, as an organization that represents older adults in the county and people with disabilities, what do you think is the best fit in this process based on some of the different things that you went through? Right, in terms of committee participation versus being an ambassador versus actually applying for grants. Just wanted to hear your thoughts on that.
Absolutely, and I see you're with Vivalon. Could you tell us a little bit more about what you all do, Stephanie, for those who don't know?
Yeah, so we formerly called Whistle Stop. We rebranded during the pandemic to Vivalon. So we serve the older adult and disabled population in Marin County, and actually serve those outside of the county as well. And we have two major areas. One is transportation. So we provide transportation. We do in-home meal delivery. So we partner with Marin County for the Meals on Wheels program here in the county. But we also have our own program for people who aren't eligible. And we provide other in-home services. And then we have our Healthy Aging Center. And that's where we provide activities, our Jackson Cafe, affordable meals. So it's really end to end. And then while we don't provide any sort of other direct services, we do a lot of referrals. So we're really a hub for older adults and adults with disabilities in the county.
Wow, fantastic. Well, to your question, I think that it would be wonderful for you all to put together a proposal that you feel meets the needs of the senior community in Marin. So just based on what you just described, I think that's just such an important and often overlooked community. And so I imagine that you all could come up with many proposals really, but we wanted you to pick the best one that you think is the most relevant. So that would be one suggestion. And you could also join the ambassador team if you'd like. That one doesn't preclude you from submitting a application. So it's another way to spread the word and make sure that people know about this effort. So it's really based on your bandwidth and capacity and where you feel you could have the most leverage and the most impact. But I think those are two suggestions that come to mind for me right away.
Yeah, and this question, and maybe Angela, you can answer this one. Because our organization is already contracted for quite a few different things with the county, would there be any, conflict there or, you know what I'm saying? Because it's
so long as it's not the same project.
Right.
So obviously it wouldn't be in the Wheels on Wheels program, but as long as it's not the same project. I mean, we contract with a lot of nonprofits, but I think, if this is a new project that you're working on, I think we would absolutely want to see the proposal. I think also, Stephanie, because of your access to the senior population, getting the word out about the voting would really, making sure that I think you guys could be really instrumental in helping us out too.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. I was thinking a lot of just promoting everything that this whole process and all the different steps, or providing the space, right? Because we have so many older adults coming and going in our Healthy Aging Center. So when you're actually, going through the voting process, having a place where we can promote that you'll be doing it and having the space to engage.
Absolutely. And, we plan to do the voting in multiple locations. So we'd love to come to some of your different spaces and have many voting sessions for your constituents.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for those questions there, Stephanie. Let's hear from others. Any other comments, questions? I know there's a lot coming at you. Yeah, Samantha.
Sorry, I have a quick question. Stephanie, are you no longer with Canal Alliance? Can I get your new email? Because we're hosting a mental health summit and it's going to be intergenerational, and I would love some of the aging population there.
Sure. I'll throw my new email. So I'm no longer with Canal Alliance. I've been with Vivillon since December. And I'm happy to throw my email in the chat for anyone who wants to contact me. You're welcome.
And I just have a comment. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name's Samantha. Lived in Marin my whole life. Been working in the nonprofits and education. And this is like a personal comment, but I feel really stuck in my nonprofit in the sense that I don't feel like I get paid well. And I think a lot of people in the nonprofits don't get paid well. And so I worry about doing more work and adding more projects and more programs when you're not really forcing the nonprofits to pay their people more. So like, I absolutely love what I do. I work with young people. I'm really good at it, but they say, you're within the scale and there's nothing we can do unless you want to supervise people, unless you want to do this and that. And so there's so many issues within these 503Cs that even in the process of trying to work for equity, it's not equitable. And it falls on marginalized people like myself to do more work for no more money. So personal comment of the lens that I'm receiving this information with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for that honesty there, Samantha. And I wonder if there's a proposal that you could put together that addresses that very issue and that lifts up the fact that is so common in many places, particularly in the nonprofit industry. And what would you do about that? I think because that's really about advancing racial equity. As you said, it falls on the shoulders of marginalized individuals. So what could you come up with that would address that issue, for example? But I understand the bandwidth is very real too. So we do plan to provide stipends and funding to our partners who participate and help support. But recognize that capacity is always an issue. And Samantha, I think we've also emailed today, and we want to engage the youth. I know that you're with, you work with, I believe you're with YLI and the Youth Commission, and so those are some really important voices that we want to engage. So I think we're planning to talk later this week, but there may be suggestions that the young folks have that they want to lift up as well. So I just wanted to flag that.
Yeah, absolutely. Super, super excited to connect. And young people really have a lot of great ideas. And I know some of them already are in the equity group. And so it's about engaging some of the other young people. And so I'm excited to help with that.
Awesome. Thank you. Kristen or Cole, what's coming up for you? Nicole, I see you on the line here. Rosa, anything sparking for you?
Well, I mean, I've worked with a number of different organizations in the county. I'm an independent consultant. This is exciting. I'm kind of just assuming you're tapped into other parts of the county that, like I did the work on the Growing Roots project, reaching out, improving services for youth, behavioral health services. And there's a whole network of youth services, grassroots organizations, nonprofits who often help create access between the county and the communities you're looking at. So I assume you're tapped into that. If you're not, I'm happy to chat about it.
Great, thank you for that.
Yes, hi Jamila.
Hey Nicole.
Hello everyone. I'm just excited about about being able to use the money with nonprofits that don't get so much attention. And I'm here to share this information with everyone, so that they can spread the word, because it's a lot of nonprofits that we don't know about because they don't get the attention like these other big businesses and nonprofits. So I'm just here to advocate and be an ambassador for nonprofits in Marin County.
Right on. Thank you, Nicole. And to that point about the ambassador, so I mentioned that we have flyers available. We have very easy language that we've curated and put together to make it really easy for you all to share if you'd like to do that. So we'll send a follow-up email after this conversation with just some really simple how-tos of how to spread the word.
Okay. Thank
you. Thanks, Nicole. Glad to have you here. Cole, how you doing? Any feedback from you? Mr. Tran?
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
I'm working with the Marin Asian Advocacy Project. It's the first time I participate in this meeting. For me, just to learn more about the process.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. Let's see, Rosa, any feedback, comments, questions from you? No, the presentation was so good that all our questions have been answered. Well, listen, this has been really fantastic. We can continue to hold space, and if other questions, comments come up, pop them in the chat. We'll be sure to answer them, or we can always follow up after today. This isn't your last chance to ask questions or get involved. So just know that this is the first of many conversations that we plan to have in community about this. So what I'm going to do now is just go ahead and bring my show back up. My colleagues have been putting different links in the chat. If you want to go ahead and apply and learn more, you can click on some of those links. All right, so we're going to move now into just the last part of our conversation tonight. And again, this is just a reiteration of the process here. We will make these slides available in our recording, so this is available for you to see again. We'll be providing some additional information, fact sheets, FAQs on our website too, as we get underway. So lots more details to emerge, but this is in general the big picture of the process. And with that, I also just wanted to flag for you all another effort, which is the Race Equity Action Plan. And this is something that a group of community members put together. They worked for over a year in the midst of the pandemic to identify recommendations to advance racial equity. We are blessed with Nicole's presence here. She was one of the leaders of that effort. And so really excited to still see her involved in this really important work. And the board allocated about $1.7 million for the committee to use to implement the recommendations. And so the plan is been accepted by the board in February of this year. And now we're focusing on implementation. And so we're putting together an implementation team, and it'll include community members, it'll include nonprofits as well, and then city, county, town department staff also. So it's a partnership. It's a multi-sector collaboration that we're trying to establish here. And we're going to break out into 3 action groups. It'll be around mental health, economic opportunity, and housing. And so if you know of people who maybe this is more of what they want to get involved in, maybe it's not PB per se, but it's something more related to implementing an actual plan. And so this is an opportunity to do that. And we've already launched the application. There's still plenty more time to apply if you are interested. We have flyers available on our website. I'm going to ask my colleagues to pop that in the chat too, where you can find the links to this and to learn more. So there's so many ways. We really recognize that this work is so important, and there's so many ways that we want to engage people and to have them feel a part of this work and this conversation. And so this is just one of the many. With that, everybody, I'm going to go ahead and bring us to a close and wrap us up here. So just to close out, we do encourage you to apply to the Funding and Outreach Committee if you're interested. Applications are available in Spanish, Vietnamese, and English, and you have about a month to apply, so plenty of time. And also to start thinking of proposal ideas. What is it that you feel your community really needs to advance racial equity? And not only the ideas, but who would you partner with? Who are some potential partners that you would want to work with to have this idea come to life? There's money available, and we don't always get to say that. And so really want to encourage people to take advantage of this. So more to come on that. You can also apply for that Race Equity Action Plan team I just mentioned. And then last but not least, we encourage you to stay connected with us. You can sign up for updates through our mailing list, our e-blast list. And that's just one more way for us to stay connected with each other. So that's our website as well for you if you don't know what it is just yet. Has a lot of great resources and information on it. And with that, everybody, I just want to say thank you so much for your time. And we know you could be anywhere tonight, and we appreciate you being with us. And as always, if you have questions, if you have comments, ideas, we want to hear it. So please don't be shy about reaching out and sharing your thoughts with us. I'm going to just pause and see if there are any other announcements from the group before we sign off. Anybody have any other meetings coming up that you want to make known? Or
Yeah, I just want to uplift that May 7th, we're going to be hosting a mental health festival. The theme is intergenerational community post COVID-19. So we're opening it up to high school students, the aging community, adults of any age. We have a capacity of about 90 to 100. There's going to be food, workshops, little booths, but we're just trying to find that balance between like information and joy and connectedness. And so we're going to send the Eventbrite out soon. So maybe I can send it to one of you guys and you can forward it to the others. But May 7th it's going to be held at the Marin County Office of Education. Thank you so much.
fantastic. We're so happy to hear that, Samantha. We also have a mental health summit in the Race Equity Action Plan. And so would love to connect. And I know we're going to talk tomorrow, I think. But that's just fantastic to hear. So May 7th, everybody, mark your calendars, and we'll be happy to send that info out to our partners, Samantha, when you have a chance to send it over to us. Any other announcements from the group before we sign off? Okay, well, listen, I just want to again say thank you so much for the time. We really do appreciate you being here with us. I want to thank our team working behind the scenes and thank our team who is working in front of the camera as well. We appreciate you all. We look forward to working with you and have a great rest of your evening. Take care.
Thank you, Jamila. Bye, Sophie.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night, everybody.